Hi guys, Arnav here from Coding Blocks, and we're just gonna get started with today's webinar, and we would be speaking about how you can get prepared for GSoC, how you can build projects for that. So we'll discuss all of that. Just waiting for 2-3 minutes, as I think a few more people are probably joining in. Anybody who is attending the first webinar at Coding Blocks, I think you guys are well versed with this thing. Using Zoom, I guess. If you have any issues, let me know. I think you can chat. There's a chat place where I see some messages there that have come from Pratyaksh, Hitesh, Tarandeep. I mean, messages, I'm getting the messages. I can send a reply on text as well, though I will be just speaking directly. And if you have any questions, there's a Q&A part as well. I think you can raise your hand. There's a button for raising your hand, and you can ask something there if you want to. I guess you can see my screen and you can see my video. Both of the things you're able to see. Audio is fine. Just want to make sure. Okay. Cool. So, hi guys. I think some of you are enrolled in our Android course, I believe. Some of you are probably in our web development Django or Node.js courses, right? So, I think a few people would be from ML and DS courses as well, data science courses. So we would basically, go across all of the things. So although I mean, the title of the video was GSoC, and that's because a lot of people just get very excited with that. I would be basically covering something more in general, like how do you get started with open source projects and how do you build a good open source profile. You have a great GitHub profile that people would look and find you as a really great developer. How you can grow in the open source community, how you can build friends, go to hackathons. We'll cover all of that, right? So it's and of course GSoC is something that a lot of people aspire to do. It's considered, at least at the college level, as one of the best things that you can put on your resume to show that you have worked on some real world projects. You have built an app or a website or an actual in production learning model or something like that. Cool. So I just like to have, I think, quick question. Anybody here who does not have any experience of either web development or mobile development or machine learning, like no production development experience? Anybody has? If you can let me know in the chat. Okay, so I think one or somebody I have found out. Okay, cool. So few people who don't have any experience in that. So we'll just cover all of that. Now, let's just start with something very basic. Is that what is Google Summer of Code? And before we go to that, we'll have to take a little bit of understanding about how open source software development basically works, right? So open source software development is, there are a lot of software that today we are using, which is built on top of open source platforms. And from very big examples like the Linux kernel, which is the basis for a lot of operating systems. People use Linux desktop operating systems like Ubuntu and all, but that's not exactly very popular as a consumer. What's really popular for consumers is Android. Android is based on top of Linux, and the Android operating system also is open source, in fact. Then there are browsers like Chrome, Firefox, the two most popular browsers. Those are also based on top of open source technologies. There is a Chromium project based on which Chrome browser works. Firefox, the entire browser, is open source, right? VLC, like I think everybody uses VLC for viewing videos, and VLC is also open source software, right? So what does this mean is that, like, if you can see on my screen, we just look at VLC GitHub. Okay, so this is the website. If you go to github.com/videoland/VLC, that's the entire source code for the VLC program. And in fact, if you go and download this project, so you can go and clone it via Git, or you can download it zip. And if you run a command which is basically make, so there is a program called make, make, which exists in a lot of operating systems like Linux and Mac. It already exists in Windows. You can install that CMake. So install make, and then you run just just run the command make on this folder. And you would find that you have actually built VLC from source code, and the entire source code is actually out there to see. You can just browse the entire source code. There is a lot of stuff like how does it audio, video, let's say for example, how does it actually produce the audio output? There are source code files for that. How does it encode the video? So there is all of that stuff. I mean, it's a big project, huge thing. There's a lot of things happening on VLC. It can play a lot of different video formats. This entire thing is open source, and the best thing about it is that you can just go up here. You can look at the commits that people have been doing. You can somebody has say for example anything. For example, somebody has added a Happy New Year message on inside a VLC. So you'll see that during Christmas and during New Year time, the VLC cone has a Santa cap on top of it. That's just a small feature. That's a UI feature that really does not change the functionality, but you can see some people have made some changes regarding that, how they're doing that. There's a lot of things. So you can see how the software is growing, how people are adding feature support for new things, all of that stuff that's happening. And everybody who contributes to VLC, an organization like that, these are not like a company and office. It's not like, say, Adobe or Amazon or Google or Flipkart or Zomato. These kind of companies, they have a building, they have an office, people go there, has a 9-to-5 job, and they write the code for that software and they get paid for that. Open source does not work that way. Open source is a very different kind of a thing. People have just come together remotely from different parts of the world. There would be people from America, from Europe, from India, and they are just collaborating over that project over GitHub, remotely, and they're building these software. So why I'm just rambling around and going through all of this discussion is because these kind of open source software is actually very useful for the entire world. So Google has been able to become has been able to bring Android to everybody's homes because of Linux. Google has been able to build Chrome, which is again both a very popular browser, a very popular operating system, Chrome OS as well, because the WebKit project existed on top of which they built that browser. And there are a lot of big tech companies who would not have been able to build all the things that they have built unless these open source projects, projects did not exist. So the motivation behind why Google Summer of Code or programs like that exist is Google knows that improving open source software, making people involved in that, growing the software is beneficial for the entire world. And because these are not run by for-profit organizations and people are not really having a salary or a stipend for working on these kind of projects, Google says that okay, here's what we will do. They invite a lot of open source organizations. They say that do you guys have some tasks, some bugs to solve, some issues okay, somebody's raising their hand. Hey Suprabhat, hey, you can send a chat, I guess, if you want to speak something, I believe. Yeah, hi. Hey guys, if you want to say something, you can just send on the chat. I would love to reply to that. I think a few people have raise their hands for that. Okay, audio not clear. Is the audio not clear? Anybody else facing the problem? Cool. Okay. Getting back to what I was just discussing is that so Google says that to all these open source organizations that you can submit your projects. You can say that we have this project, new feature to be added, or some bugs to be fixed, and it can be done in 2-3 months time. You tell us these kind of projects, and then you can select some students who will be working on that as if it was their internship, and Google will pay the stipend for those students if they get selected for that project and they do it. So that's roughly what it is. Now, how it plays out is that you have a timeline. So as you can see, this is the timeline of the project. Have it open on the screen right now. In a few days, in January 15th, Google would be inviting organizations to submit projects. Then on February 21st, Google will announce a list of organizations that these are the organizations which have been selected, and you can apply for projects at these organizations. Then March 16 to 31 is the time when you can actually submit your applications, and then some applications get reviewed, some get selected. Those that get selected, it is said that you have been selected for Google Summer of Code. Okay. Oh, by the way, just to clarify, so this webinar would be recorded, and all those who have been invited, those courses will have access to this webinar later on as well. Okay. And people who had the link to join this webinar, you can click that link later on as well, like tomorrow, day after, anytime, and you can see the recording of that. Okay. It's going to be saved. Okay, so what I was saying, so then you get selected for Google Summer of Code, and when you get selected, then you start working on that project, and then getting selected itself is a very big deal. But then you also have to stick to the proposal that you have created. You would have said that, okay, I will do X, Y, Z, so many things, and then if you are not able to finish all the things that you have promised to do, then you have 3 evaluations. There is a first term evaluation, the second term evaluation, there is a final evaluation. And if you don't pass the evaluation, so if you pass the first term evaluation, you get 1/3 of the stipend. Then you pass the second term evaluation and you get the second part of the stipend. And then you pass the final evaluation, you get the entire stipend. And of course, for a poor country like India, the stipend in dollars is not a small amount. It's a big amount. That's a big motivation for a lot of people. I know that. Apart from that, the entire experience of having written code in a project, which probably is going to be used by millions of people, that is a great feeling. If you get selected to an organization like Mozilla, you might be writing code inside Firefox, and then 200 million people who use Firefox daily are going to be using the feature that you have written. That's a great experience. You can just go and tell people, hey, that you're using this Firefox, you click on that button, who wrote that? I wrote that, right? So that's of course a great experience when you do that. A lot of times you can work on, say, this DH7, it's a healthcare organization. You can work on software that is used by hundreds of thousands of hospitals all across the world. So really great experience. So that's basically how the program works. Now, we are going to be discussing is how do we get started with that. So I believe that let me just open something where I can type Sublime maybe. Yep. So I believe there are going to be a lot of projects, okay, at GSoC, and you can just go and browse those projects. You can go to the website, and you can click on About. You will find out, check out past projects. If you go to check out past projects, you can see all the organizations that were selected in the last, whatever number of years. You can go to 2018 projects. Okay, I think my own one would be in 2016, I think. 2016, I don't know, list of projects. Can I find out? Yeah, so that's my project that I built. Here is the one. That was my proposal. That is all the code that I wrote in Fossicia's repository, all the work that I did. So you can you can see that what kind of projects get selected. You can go to projects, and you will see there's a lot of projects. You can search, for example, let's say I want to search projects which are in Angular. You can search for any term. Okay, a lot of Angular projects. You want to search for what? Something else? Android? A lot of Android based projects, right? What else? TensorFlow. You want to work with TensorFlow. There are a lot of TensorFlow projects. So most of these development technologies, Ruby on Rails, Django, Node.js, PHP, Laravel, then front-end technologies, React, Vue.js, Angular, mobile, iOS, Android, right? You can just, whatever you are comfortable in, whatever you are, well versed with, you love building projects on, go and search that technology. You'll see there are a lot of projects on those technologies. By the way, there's a question whether I can share my proposal. Yes, I can. I will be sharing my proposal. I have that open. In fact, I'll just go through my proposal. So we'll do it step by step. Let's discuss how to reach the point where you get to submitting a proposal. Then we'll discuss how to create a good proposal and how you can submit your proposal. Okay, so we'll get to that. Yeah, so what I was saying. I think, yeah. So a lot of different things. Now, you can see a lot of this thing, past organizations as well. I think we can go here and Google Summer of Code Archive. And I think there will be organizations. Yeah. So there's a list of organizations. You can filter them by category. There would be, say, some organizations which work on security. There would be organizations that work on, social media kind of projects. Rocket Chat, for example, Moodle. Moodle is something, it's a learning software. Moodle is basically, you can say, an open source version of, online coding blocks. It's like a learning platform where people can put their doubts and videos and all that stuff. Rocket Chat, it's pretty much like Slack. Okay. Then graphics, video, audio, virtual reality. You have all these graphics softwares. Okay. Inkscape is like Adobe Illustrator, but an open source version of it. Then you can check data and databases. So these are a lot of databases. MariaDB. So these are the people who build MySQL, in fact, right? PostgreSQL, very famous database software. So all these organizations are part of GSoC, and these are all very famous open source organizations, and you can take part in all of these. So coming to just a second. Yeah. So how do we get around to this? I think let me just give you a rough idea of what level you should be at to be able to start thinking about GSoC. So for example, I think the kind of audience that I'm talking to right now, you guys, engineering undergrad students, these kind of crowd. I think I think in your life when you start programming, you would have done basic DS algo using C++ or Java, bog standard. That's what everybody does in life, right? And you would have probably ventured a little bit into competitive programming. Maybe if you are deeply interested in that, prime C, Euclid algorithm, greedy algorithm, all of that stuff. If not, you would have maybe just gone up to stacks, queues, linked list trees, and done that well. But then the next thing you would probably be getting into some kind of development related technologies. In development related technologies, you can roughly say there is mobile, there is web, and there is we can say machine learning. Okay, now again, these are big things again. So mobile, there would be Android inside that, there would be iOS, right? Web, you could have gone into backend or you could have, gone into front end. And if and on machine learning, again, you might have gone in towards the say data science. You could have actually gotten into deep learning. A lot of fields that start getting created out there right now. The thing is that oh, there's a question: can you apply for GSoC in the 8th semester? Yes, you can. I mean, by the time Google Summer of Code starts, at that time you need to be in college. You don't need to be in college by the time it ends. I did participate in Google Summer of Code during my 8th semester. So now, the kind of projects that exist, I would say the number of projects that exist on the total number of organizations that come, I think there would be 60% of the projects would be on web, which is kind of the distribution. Then there would be, so I would say, I think I would say there would be core projects as well. So core would be like, databases, OS, so these kind of stuff, graphics and stuff. So let's say web would be around 50% of a lot of those projects would involve web stuff. Now, here's something that is important. There would be some projects which, so I'll give an example. There was Ayush Bhaiya. Ayush Bhaiya used to teach web development here at Coding Blogs for quite some time. He also participated along with me in Google Summer of Code back in 2016. So he has been a contributor to NASA. Yeah, the NASA, the organization that launches spaceships in USA, okay? He had been a contributor to NASA. Now, of course, sitting here in India using a laptop, he's not launching spaceships. He was working on some of the dashboards that NASA uses for displaying data, and he was working on Angular. So you would, when I'm saying 50% of the projects are web projects, I mean that, I don't mean that the organization itself is going to make a web app or something like that. I mean, 50% of the projects would be web development related. Even if it's a security organization, even the security organization might have a project, we need to build a website, right? So 50% of the projects would be web related. There would be around, I think, 20% of the projects would be core stuff like DB, OS, graphics kind of stuff. I think I will just write the things a little bit far away. Yeah. So another 20% of the projects that exist would be in the mobile domain, and I think around the remaining 10% of the projects would be from the machine learning domain. So I think scientific projects that you're asking. So scientific projects, I would say they are part of. I mean, scientific projects. What does that actually mean? So there might be there is a organization called Pocket Science Lab. A Pocket Science Lab. So Pocket Science Lab, they create little science experiments which school students can use. So the people who work on Pocket Science Lab are essentially making an IoT device and an Android app. Okay, so they are not really doing scientific research when they're working on this project. So you need to understand that difference. Then there are things like there is I think AstroPy, which is the astronomy library, or yeah, Libre Space and aerospace research. So again, in those you might find so there is Open Food Facts. Now, Open Food Facts is an organization that creates a database of food, and you can take a photo of a food. It will tell you how much calorie it is and all of that. Now, Open Food Facts is an organization in GSoC, and Open Food Facts has, you can say, a bit of scientific projects, but they would again be actually part of the machine learning spectrum, because you would basically be running through a data set of a lot of food items and learn some models based on given a photo of food, can you detect whether it's a healthy food or not a healthy food, these kind of things. Okay, so that's like roughly the kind of distribution of the projects that you have. Now, I don't mean to give this distribution so that okay, GSoC karna hai, to we will be going into web because probability is the highest. Not that. What I mean is that how do you find projects that you can contribute to? Now, a lot of you people might be hearing about GSoC very recently, first time in this webinar, have not started into the development world. So I would try to we should, be realistic on the things. So I would say this is the group of things which is hard. Okay, this is difficult stuff. Working on database management systems, the core of them, working on actual operating systems, working on graphics libraries or audio libraries, these kind of things. This is hard. This is not something that you are starting to you have started to code 6 months ago. You have started to get into development today, and you would apply for GSoC this year and would get selected in one of these kind of organizations. That's not going to happen. So this is for people who are really experienced, people who probably are not watching this webinar. They really know what they're doing. They probably have participated in GSoC already once. And GSoC is open for MS, MTech students. GSoC is open for PhD students. Okay, so there are PhD people who get selected. The Linux Foundation comes to GSoC, and people actually participate in GSoC and write drivers inside Linux kernel. Many of the times those are PhD, computer science PhD students, right? So it's not like BTech students are the only people who are trying for GSoC. So keep that in mind. Talking about these, I think this pertains to a lot of the people who are right now watching this webinar, people who we contacted for this webinar, right? Now, again, let's start with web. So web, again, when you're talking about backend, so there will be a lot of projects which I think would be done mainly in these languages: Ruby on Rails, Django, Node.js, and I think PHP / Laravel, right? Large number of projects would be in these things. I think I should definitely mention Java, basically Java in the backend, right? JBoss and all of that. So when you're talking about backend projects, you need to have had the kind of experience where you would have created something like the backend for a blogging website, the backend for a shopping cart, or the backend for a chatting website. These kind of things you have built, and you have built 3-4 such projects already, and you have good experience in at least one of these technologies. So then you would find a lot of projects which are using these technologies. Now, the thing with GSoC is that there would be organizations with projects which have been running for 7-8 years. So you would have to understand that huge code base, all that code written over 7-8 years, and a lot of the way that code has been written. Maybe they would find a project written in PHP, and they started writing code in PHP 3. And then PHP 4, 5, and 7 have come out, right? So you can use asynchronous functions and classes and all of that stuff in PHP 7, but then it did not exist in PHP 3. So the entire code base is written as if you would find like you have gone to a time machine 5 years back. You would find a lot of JavaScript projects. They are using var. They're not using let cons. They're not using classes. They're generating objects using functions. Why? Because they started writing the code long back, and you can't just rewrite your entire project just because you feel like. So you need to have experience in one of these things, but you need to also have built some projects, and you should check out some of the projects that organizations that have projects in these languages. You can just directly search Ruby on Rails or Django or Node.js or Java or PHP. You can search in the GSoC search box, and you will find projects in these fields. And the legacy code base might feel like really terrifying. It's a big project, but just start small, start simple. Just download that project, try to build it. Okay, there would be a README. It would have information how to build that project, how to run that project. Just try doing that, and that would take 2-3 days time. I can guarantee you that it won't be very easy. It won't be like you just download and it runs immediately like that. 3 things will break, certain things will not work. That's the way it is. Okay. Talking about front end, there would be front end projects. There would be projects in Angular, and yes, Angular 1 and 2 both, right? There would be React projects, maybe very few Vue.js projects. It's a very newer technology. There of course there would be vanilla websites as well, which does not use any framework, no framework based. So those will be very big websites which have a lot of code, spaghetti code written in jQuery and just pulling one function from another, like that kind of a code. So those kind of projects will also be there as far as talking. So again, if you have created something like the front end of a blogging system, a front end of a chat app, these kind of things, if you have built, then you can try that. And if you have experience with Angular, React, or Vue, some of these front-end frameworks, it's going to be a big bonus because there'll be a lot of projects which are using these frameworks. And if you already have an experience, that's definitely an edge. Mobile. So second thing, mobile. Now again, Android. So there would be a lot of Android projects, and when you're talking about Android, you would need like the kind of experience where you have worked with Jetpack libraries, you have worked with RX Java a bit, maybe, right? And you have significant experience working on projects which use all the retrofit, glide, these kind of libraries. Maybe a little bit of experience on things like Dagger, which is dependency injection. Dagger is something that even in our Android course at Coding Blocks, we don't actually cover that because it's an advanced concept. It's not something that you start learning Android and in 2 months you get to a level where you are using dependency injection and Dagger and all. But I'm just mentioning that, a basic overview of these kind of technologies you have, then only you would be able to pick up some Android projects. iOS, I think, is something I would say, I don't know anybody who has interest in iOS or something here. There are going to be very few projects on iOS because iOS, people don't really make a lot of open source projects on iOS. That's the kind of the culture. There would be a lot of organizations which are making mobile apps and they're making only Android apps and not iOS apps, because as an open source organization, you have to pay some $100 every year to keep your app on Play Store, on the App Store, and all those kind of things. Anyway, so that's there. Then talking about the machine learning field again, here's something that again a bit of reality check is that a lot of the machine learning projects would be cleaning up of data. They would not be working on the next big algorithm or something like that. That's not happening. In 3 months, an engineering undergrad student will come to an org and they will write the new ML algorithm. That's not the kind of project that would exist. It's not realistically possible. There's going to be a lot of places where you are not really working on the core algorithm. You're just hooking up the data pipeline to the training model, setting it up on the cloud so that it is automated. There's going to be projects like that, and they are good for experience. They give you a lot of production grade experience. You might have taken a artificial data set of 1,000 tweets and run your training on sentiment analysis on that. That's not real world machine learning. That's like been done for 20 years now. Everybody makes their college project on Twitter sentiment analysis, and that's bogus machine learning. That's really not useful anymore. There are 10-line scripts which can do sentiment analysis on tweets. I'm just saying. So bigger projects, you need to know how to hook in the data, how to run a distributed learning system. So those kind of projects would be there where you would be working on the operations of the data science part. Projects which are in to the domain of deep learning, computer vision, there are very few. But there are very few. And again, those are very specialist fields. You would have probably been on top of 2-3 contests on Kaggle or something like that, and that's the kind of level where you start thinking, okay, I can actually contribute to deep learning tech in Google Summer of Code. Okay, so that's basically like the idea of what kind of things that you need to know to be able to participate in which kind of projects at Google Summer of Code. Right now, so how do you approach that and what kind of things? So let me just give you an idea about what kind of proposals people create. So this is my FOSS Asia proposal that I think got selected. I don't know. I think this is Ayush's proposal. So I'll just show you. Yeah. So when you create a proposal for Google Summer of Code, it would have a few basic stuff. One thing, there are going to be some organizations which specify that their proposals need to be in a particular format. They need you to answer a specific set of questions inside the proposal. So for that kind of a case, you would have to follow what they exactly want. Otherwise, I think you need to have a very strong case of why they should select you for this particular project. And what is very important is you need to cover the very first thing is, during that particular project, what all things will you achieve? Now, I will tell you something. So let's take a look at the organizations that participated last year, right? So 2019 organizations. Okay. Now let's take any particular organization which is a bit popular. Okay. So let's say we take Cloud CV. Okay. Now, if you just go and search Cloud CV, GSoC ideas, you will find that there is going to be a page somewhere on Cloud CV's GitHub or on their website where they would have mentioned what all Cloud CV has GSoC ideas for 2019. Okay. And you will find out that these are the projects, and the projects are going to be something like, I'll tell you the kind of project that I applied for. Force Asia had a project idea that we want to build an app to manage conferences. That's it. That was the idea. Okay. There were no details inside from their side. They just wanted somebody to submit a proposal, and my proposal will contain all the details. My proposal will contain, okay, that's how the project is going to look like. These are the APIs that I will create. This is the app that I will create. This is how the app is going to look like. This is the technology that I will use. X amount of time I would need. All that stuff is in my proposal. It's not in the idea that they gave. Their idea is going to be one line or maybe one paragraph maximum. It would be like, okay, just subjectively, this is what we need to build. I'll give an example of something. My friend participated in VLC. So VLC did not have support earlier for Chromecast. So for example, if you have Chromecast connected to your TV and you want to play a video on your laptop, but you want to stream it to your TV via Chromecast. So one of the ideas in 2015, it was add Chromecast support to VLC. And there were a little bit 2-3 lines written there. We want to support the Chromecast V2 API. We want to stream using Miracast and blah, etc., etc. Just 2-3 lines written. Now they are expecting somebody to write a proposal which would say that, okay, I am the person who is going to add Chromecast support to VLC. These are the tools I will use. This is the amount of time I will need. These are the steps by which I will achieve that. So all that is going to be in your proposal. That's how this idea and the proposal thing works. Okay. So here's my thing. I have to write, okay, these are the goals that, what are goals I will going to achieve. If it's an existing project, you have to write goals about how you're going to improve. If it's a new project, you have to write goals about what kind of features will get ready by the end of, your GSoC period getting end. You have to, write, another thing is, how much would you be available? How much time would you be able to give? Would you be able to, when would you be available for, calls or Skype calls to interact with your mentors, all of that stuff. If you have exams during this 3-4 month period, when would you not be available, and all of that stuff. Then you have to, create something very important is you have to give a timeline. You have to tell, okay, I have these 12 weeks of GSoC, and in these 12 weeks, how I will approach. First week, this steps I will be finishing. I will read up on this. I will create this library. I will create the first feature. Second week, I'm going to create tests for that. I'm going to integrate the second feature, etc., etc. So you'll have to have this entire milestone kind of a thing. And then you need to be able to, of course, sell yourself. Is that because there are going to be, I think, 2 kinds of projects you would be applying to. Ones which look easy to you. If they're easy, then there are going to be a lot of people applying for it. So you need to be able to convince that person that, among the other 10 applications or 20 applications, 30 applications, you are the one who is best suited to work on this project. Okay. The other kind of projects that exist are the very hard ones. Now, those are the ones which, not a lot of people are applying to. I had my friend Umair. He was an org admin at this thing, FFmpeg. It's a audio video encoding library, and they had a project for which nobody applied. It was so hard, nobody applied, so they just scrapped that project off. And then there are projects like the one that I participated in, Force Asia. Back then, it was just create a simple Android app. It was a simple project, and I think we had 60-70 applications, and 3 people were selected. So there are both kinds of scenarios. You have to decide based on that. So that's it. Now, some people would also, if you're starting off with a new project, so for example, you would be creating a bit of a flow diagram as well, like what which flow to which which page to which page the user will be going, a data flow diagram, a bit of UI. I think you can create some UI mocks. So I think these exist. So some extra, how the interaction will work, some code on that, right? You'd create a proposal like that, and then you should be able to give. I think this is Ayush's proposal. He had a very good timeline that he had written. I think, yeah, in like how week by week he would be building things. So pretty similar to like the one that I showed, right? So I have been a mentor on GSoC for 3 years, and I think a lot of people submit proposals which will literally reject, seeing just like just looking at just open the file and delete. Why that happens is because some people are writing 1 page, 2 page proposal, like I am an Android developer, I have experience in Android, select me for this project. It need to be very important that your project plan needs to be very well laid out. You need to be very you have to convince people really properly how you're going to build that project, in and out everything about that project, maybe some even basic architecture that you are planning. All of that needs to be there. Okay. So your proposal would be, I think, roughly 6 to 10 pages, and more towards 10. That's the kind of roughly the size of proposal that people would be building, right? Yeah. So that's about the proposals. I think anybody has any questions about building your proposal or something like that, can you just fire those questions? I would love to take that, and then I'm going to move to the more important part, which I think a few people have already asked, is like, how do we start just a second. Yeah, I think a few people are raising their hands. Can you guys just write in the chat itself? I mean, it's better that way because there are a lot of people, and you can just write in the chat. I think I can respond to that. That'd be easier. Okay, proposal links. I think I just get you here. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, guys, this is the link to the Google Summer of Code draft proposals. Okay, you can cb.lk/gsoc draft. Okay, you can go here. You will find the proposal link that I was just showing to you guys. Okay. Also, like apart from that, you can also search, GSoC sample proposal. A lot of people have published their proposals. Okay, there are a lot of sample proposals out there. GSoC selected proposal example, and you will find there are a few places in GSoC 2012 somebody's proposal. So you just search for that GSoC selected proposals. You'll find a lot of other people have also published their proposals, and you can check those out to be good. Okay. The ones that I just shared, those are available on this link. Okay. A few of you have already clicked, I guess. So yeah. Okay. Any other questions regarding the proposals? Anything related to the proposals? Okay, so somebody has a question. How much do you suggest doing GSoC to a second year student? Jitendra has asked this. I suggest trying for GSoC for everybody, whether you are even in first year or something, or in fourth year. Um, Even if you're a little doubtful that you are not really ready for GSoC right now, maybe next year you would be more ready. I would still say you should try for GSoC right now, because going through the entire process, you need certain documents to prove you're a student. You have to submit those documents. Maybe if you're submitting GSoC and then last moment you have some problem getting the document from your college, you get through the experience of all of that logistics as well, right? That's also important. Then when you start try to create a proposal thinking that you want to get selected, not like a trial. It's not a try ball khel lete hain pehla and then agli ball se hum batting karenge. It's not like that. Think of that you want to get selected this year and you create a serious proposal. You go through the experience of learning to make the proposal. You submit a proposal, the mentor would review it. Even if you don't get selected, they'll tell you what's missing in that proposal, right? You get involved in the process, you learn and you will see that other people who get selected, you might not get selected this year and somebody else gets selected, and you see that how did they get selected, what kind of projects did they work on, how did they grow during the GSoC period. So that's all very important. So try applying for GSoC whenever, as soon as possible. If you're just thinking of it right now, then just do it right now itself. Okay. That's what my suggestion would be. If you have gotten into the world of development, like just like finished DS Algo and just started just the basics of say web, mobile, etc., these kind of things, just like right now, I mean, like started it this month itself, like during the winter vacations. I want to be very honest. Like the chances are slim. Of course, there's very little chance you will get selected compared to people who have been working on the technology for 1 or 2 years and are applying for the same project. That's true. People would be looking at your GitHub profile. They would be seeing, have you built projects in that technology in which you're trying to apply to in the last 1 year, 2 years or not? Do you have projects on your GitHub profile? People are going to see that. So that's definitely there. So if you're just starting right now today and the GSoC application dates are just 1 or 2 months away, it's not very realistic for those people. Those people who have been working on development related technologies for a while now, and you have built a few projects, small projects already, those people, I would say definitely try right now. You should try this year. And somebody has asked what are the chances of getting selected first time. So I think when you're applying first time, chances are, I guess, 60-70% chances of getting selected, because people do get selected. And I mean, of course, the number of people who apply is 20-30,000 and the number of people who get selected is 1,000. So there is 1:20 ratio there. I mean, if you look at it that way. But out of those 20,000 applications, I think at least 10,000 are really one-page bogus applications. Just remove that from the pile. I mean, if you are applying seriously, then the chances are like 1 in 5, 1 in 6 kind of thing. Then from 1 in 5 and 1 in 6 to how do you get to actually getting selected? It of course depends on how well you convince that you are the right person for that project and how much you show your past experience in that particular technology. Right. First time I applied, I did not get selected, not because my proposal was not good or I was not ready or something like that. It was because the person who was supposed to mentor my project was not available. So the organization, scrapped that project. They said that, finally, just before I was submitting, they said that, we are not thinking of running this project. It will take too much time. We will not be able to run this. So, try applying to something else. So even that can happen, right? I tried first time during the end of my second year, and the org I was trying for, they just scrapped that particular project. Even that can happen, right? But still, I think there's good chance if you're trying for the first time. I know a lot of people who have been selected first time. I think the number of people who I know have participated in GSoC, my friends, I think half of them, at least half of them, have gotten through the first year itself, and the rest half of them would have gotten through the second time they tried, right? I don't know. I don't think I know anybody who seriously tried for GSoC 2 times and did not get selected twice. I mean, most people definitely get selected second by the time they try second time. Okay. Okay. So apart from proposals, any other questions regarding the process, whatever you want to know, would love to answer. So people have been asking this, like how to start contributing to big projects. I think let's just say, even if you go to let's start with the project of coding blocks itself. So this is coding blocks / Panoth. This is basically the source code for the account.codingblocks.com website. Okay, this is the source code that runs this entire thing, where you can change your addresses, your profile, and you can change your details. You can log in, log out. You can log in with Facebook, Google, Twitter, all of that stuff that exists. The entire login system, right? This is the source code for that, and I think if you look at the source code, it has 1157 commits, and quite a few files. You can see if I go into the source code folder, there are quite a few controllers. There is DBs, the middlewares. There's going to be a lot of different routes, and this is, compared to the kind of projects that exist in GSoC, this is on the smaller side. It's not a big project, I know. But even this project, if somebody who already knows Node.js a bit, also, if you come, you might find it a little overwhelming. Okay, I can't even understand where is everything happening? How is it happening? Okay, so what you need to do is you just go and look at the README. There's the README, how to do installation, deploy it, how to run locally for development. It said run npm install and then run npm start dev. Just download the project, try to run these steps, and when you do that, what would happen is that two things: either just download the project, run this, and it works, the project runs, or it doesn't. Okay, if it doesn't run, no problem, you go to issues and file an issue. I could not run this project. Okay, this is not able to run, and somebody has actually submitted a project issue, need help, not able to run the project. Somebody tried to run, they had a problem. The problem is, of course, I can see the problem and read that they don't have Postgres running, so the database is not running, so that's why there's a connection refused. So somebody wrote the comment how to run it. This is how you can set up the repository and you can run. Okay. So like, go download the project, just follow the instructions for how to build it, how to basically run it, start it, whatever. If you're not able to follow the instructions, create an issue that the instructions were not easy to follow. I have not been able to run the project. That's good. You have done your first contribution to that project. With the README of that project, if it is really well done, anybody should be able to download the project and build it. If the README is not sufficiently well written, you have a problem. You submit an issue. Somebody fixes the README. You did your first contribution. Maybe you did not write any code, but you did your first contribution, right? That's how you start. Then what you do is the next step. Most open source projects which are running for 7-8 years, you will see they would have issues. They would have a lot of issues. Go to issues, a lot of stuff. Okay, not something I really encourage to start with, but there might be some typos somewhere, words misspelled, maybe in a README file, maybe in comments or something. You can even do that. I would say you can even do that. Why? Because that gives you an idea how to clone that project, how to make a pull request, how to submit that pull request. That process you get an idea of. Don't do it more than once. It's irritating if you just submit a lot of typo fixes, spelling mistake kind of pull request. It does not paint a very good picture of you. But you can do it once, get an idea how to contribute anything to that project. Find out some issues, you'll find out some issues, small issues, maybe. So I'll tell you what kind of issues are hard to solve, what kind of issues easy to solve. There's some UI related issue, a button is not aligned properly, text is not coming correctly, something like that. Pick those issues, those should be easy to solve. Somebody says, performance issues, speed is not fine, memory leak is happening. Those are harder issues. Unless you have worked on that technology for a lot of time, you would not be able to work on performance and reliability and security issues of that technology easily. But small UI level bugs, this kind of data is not coming, this field is missing, those kind of issues, pick those up. Where do you start? Okay, so let me just say, yeah, so add username validation in front end. So it does not check whether username validation is done or not. So you'll have to go to the project and find out in which file is the sign up form there. So, I mean, if you download the project, you go through that, you will find out that, okay, there is some views, inside views, there is a sign up file. Okay. So just search for sign up word. You will find out there's a file called sign up. Inside that sign up word, there is a HTML form. There are the, the input box for username and all of that stuff. So this is, I think, the input box is username should be of this thing. So fine, you just write a bit of, write a JavaScript function which will validate that the username is correct or not, right? I mean, just find out a small issue, try to find out where that issue has happened, try to find out in the code where exactly that particular thing is generated. One thing that you definitely are not supposed to try is do not try to understand the entire project. Okay. Do not think that, you can, just understand everything that is happening in the project. So there was a interview, Linus Torvalds, who is the creator of Linux kernel. He was asked, like, do you know every code in the Linux kernel? He said, no, I don't know, because I started it a long time back and so many people have contributed to Linux kernel. And today, of the entire code base of the Linux kernel, only 2% has been written by Linus Torvalds. Rest 98% written by other people. Still, nobody else has written as much code as Linus himself has in it. So everybody else's contribution is even less than 2%. 2% is the highest one that Linus has himself written. Yet he knows only 2% of the entire code base. Even a lot of the code he has written 30 years back, he would have forgotten himself as well. So you don't need to understand how the entire project is running. Just focus on the issue at hand. Try to find out which part of the code it is affecting. Try to get into that. See if you can understand that part of the flow. Okay. This is a very important skill to have as a software developer. So, I mean, even when you say, let's say, coding blocks, I have been, I think, running for 3 years, right? And then last 10, 11 months, I have also been working at Zomato. So I do both things now. I am working in the mobile team at Zomato, and along with that, I'm taking classes and designing these courses and all at Coding Blocks as well. Now, when I joined, say, Zomato, I'll just give you an example. That's how it happens for everybody else as well. Now, Zomato has an Android app that was published in 2011. It's 9 years old. So when I joined, there is a code base, 9 years old. And of course, I can't, even today, I have been at Zomato for almost a year. I don't know every little function, every little screen that exists inside the app. Sometimes I click on some button, I realize, oh, there is the screen and also what does it do? Let me find out. It's like that. But then I have contributed a lot of things there. I have built a lot of new features myself. I think you might have seen the latest Zomato app, which has the entire UI has changed. It has this restaurant page where these cards which just fold like that and then they pop up. So those UIs, actually I built those. And when I was building it, I was just focusing on, okay, where is the restaurant page? Where is the data coming from? How to change the UI? Just focusing on that particular problem, not understanding, trying to understand the entire app, how's it working, focusing on which part I need to change. So that's how you approach big organizations and big projects. It's a very important skill to have, to dig into the code base and find out the exact place inside the source code where the problem has occurred. Understand only that part of the code flow through which the problem is happening, change only that part. Of course, after that you have to run and test. Maybe the changes that you did has created some problems elsewhere, something has stopped working, those kind of problems might have happened, right? So I mean, that's part of the process, you will learn anyway. But so that's how it happens. Now, what is most important is to understand a project of a big size. You should have had worked on projects of medium and small size. How would you work on projects of medium and small size? It's by creating your own projects. Okay, you have to build your own projects, and I think you can create lots of different projects. You can just go and search open source project ideas on Google. Just search, okay? Bunch of websites, okay? There's this, there is this. Cool. So here somebody has a GitHub site which has a lot of open source project ideas. You can filter them by technology. So all mobile app ideas are here, okay? Some GPS navigator, package manager for Android, keyboard for math notes, web apps. Okay, what apps do we have? Universal book link map, component documentation generator engine for Flutter, etc., etc. Okay, a lot of projects out there. You can select by little work, small projects. All the words that I know game. So it's a game which you can keep on typing words, and these are ideas. And you would see that a lot of these ideas, some people might have picked them up and already built projects. That's fine. I mean, you are not trying to build a startup. You don't need to have a unique idea that nobody else has built, and you don't need to take funding for it. You are just trying to build a project for your own learning and to prove that you can build projects. So you can pick up any idea, even if it's a common idea. You can start with a calculator or a to-do list. That's fine. That's not a problem. And pick that up and build it, and then you publish it to GitHub. And don't just dump your source code onto GitHub. Okay, that's not the way. You should create a good README. I'll just show you, for example. I mean, well, just an app to show trending repositories on GitHub. Okay, so there's a README. What is the project structure? What does the app do? What are the libraries that are using? Basic stuff is written there. Okay, so that needs to be there. So somebody who comes to this project, they should feel like, okay, this guy has documented stuff. And after that, only somebody would feel like reading my code. And when they read my code, of course, that code should also, I mean, I don't know whether it have anything. Let's see if there is some code which I can show, which has some documentation. So yeah, so you write a little bit of documentation, what your code does and all of that stuff. So, make it palatable. Even in this particular case, I think this repository should have some screenshots also of that app, the one that I have built. So that's basically, how you go about doing things. Maybe if you make a library that you want other people to use, create a little, logo or something like that, make it look cool. That's very important. Your project should be very palatable. People should look at it and find like, oh, cool, nice. Somebody has put effort into creating a README, creating a logo and all that stuff. So make a finished package, something that looks nice, has a nice UI, has some screenshots on your README, has steps how to run, those kind of projects, and finish your projects end to end. It should not be you start a lot of projects, leave it midway and let it be. Not like that. If it's a web app, try to host it. If it's an Android app, try to publish it to Play Store. If it's a backend, try to host it somewhere. Document that API. Okay, that's very important when you build projects, and those projects are the ones that people are interested in looking at. So yeah, I think anything, any questions anybody has about projects that you want to build, or anything about the proposal? Okay, so interesting questions. Okay, one question is, I think, I don't know. So for ML, what is standard we should aim for this? I don't know. Could you rephrase the question once, Anshu Pandey? I didn't exactly understand. Bhavesh has asked, is Linux necessary for GSoC? Linux is not necessary, technically speaking. Practically speaking, I would say yes, your chances would be better if you are Linux, because if you are using Linux, you are using already a lot of open source software. A lot of the tools inside Linux, the KDE and GNOME tools, those are all open source. So if your daily basis you're using software and applications which which is open source. So one thing very important about getting selected in GSoC or participating in open source projects is that you are never going to be able to contribute to any project or work on anything unless you use it yourself, right? For example, you want to participate in Mozilla and contribute to Firefox, but आप करते use Chrome हो हमेशा जब जब आप browse करते हो, so you wouldn't feel so much of doing it. You wouldn't know the common bugs that exist in Firefox because you don't use it every day. Even when you make that feature, you won't feel so good about yourself because you're not using your own feature. So to be able to contribute to open source, any software you contribute to, unless you use it yourself, it's very hard to be able to contribute to those kind of tools. If you use Linux, you automatically are using so much open source software that it's easier to contribute. A lot of the open source projects are made in such a way that they are much more easy to build on Linux. They would not build easily on Windows. They would, like, whenever I'm saying Linux, I mean Mac as well. I mean, everything that works well on Linux does work on Mac as well, because underlying it's a Unix based operating system, both of those, right? So the steps to build, the steps to install, they would be very Linux focused. That's the reality. The entire Linux world is very open source focused. Windows is not such open source focused world, although it's changing a bit these days. For ML, what kind of project should you make in ML to get selected? I think I mean, I think first thing is try to participate in Kaggle contests. Try to get good ranks in at least 4 or 5 of them. Try to create things like like the open food facts exist, like detecting dish from the photo of food. Create a project maybe like that, or find out what sport a person is playing from sports photographs, something like that. Computer vision side, if you're talking about. I mean, a little bit about say you can take you can scrape the coding blocks website for all the doubts that people ask, and can you create a system which say trains a model which can automatically reply to basic C++ question doubts. Just saying. Okay, these kind of projects are good. You can try and build them. It will take you maybe, I don't know, 1 or 2 months to build these kind of projects at max, and they look good on your profile, these kind of projects. So yeah. Okay. Any other question, guys? Like, even if not GSoC related, love to take any questions that anybody has about programming, about software development, anything anybody wants to ask. Somebody has asked, when I started web development, I think it's a so I once went to a hackathon. I was in 3rd year of college or something. I had some of my friends. We went to a hackathon. That hackathon had some project ideas on which we had to build some projects, and all those ideas were backend related. We realized that to win that hackathon, we can't build a mobile app because there is no mobile app related topic there. So, and our entire team, 3 of us, we were all Android developers. So during that hackathon, all 3 of us, we sat in 24 hours only. We learned a little bit of Node.js and created a basic server, and I think we won some little prize or something as well at that hackathon. But I think we wrote a lot of code. I don't know how much we understood about what we wrote at that hackathon. We wrote it and it ran. But that gave me the impetus to get into the web development side of things, because before that I had been for 4-5 years working mostly on Android apps as only. And I think, so yeah, that's how it got started in my case. Can I start web development with a basic knowledge of C++ and DS algo? Yes, you can. I think once you are at a place where using any particular language, not necessarily C++, using any language, you are able to, create loops and working on data structures like, linked list, hash maps. So that's a good enough level to get started with any development related stuff. If you're not at a level where you don't understand, iterative programming, basic recursion, basic data structures like stacks, queues, linked list, that is something that you should definitely cover first. And once you've done that, you are pretty much good to go with any technology. You can start mobile development, you can start web development. And if you focus a little bit on probability and statistics, you can start data science and machine learning as well. Okay. What else do we have? So is this webinar recorded? A lot of people are asking. I will let you know how to access it. I think the link for the webinar, if you just use that link later on after today as well, you would still be able to see the webinar later on. If not, we will add it to your course on the online coding blocks dashboard. Okay, it would be available there. That's for sure. Everybody who got invited to this webinar, it would be available for them later on for accessing as well. This particular webinar, I think so. Though not all webinars are usually, sometimes we do webinars which are just live and they are not available later on. This webinar is not like that. We will have access to this later on. In Android course, will WhatsApp cloning lectures be uploaded? Chetan has asked. Those are there on YouTube itself. Like you can go to YouTube and that's free content, right? I mean, if you want, we can create a section and insert the YouTube videos into that. So we can do that. That's not a problem. But the WhatsApp cloning ones it's going to be an open playlist on YouTube as well. Somebody asked if I am mostly a mobile developer. If you want to start with web, where do I start? I think you should start with backend because you would have an idea about what kind of requirements do you have from a server when you're making an app. Maybe you might be using Firebase for your backend or basic data storage. But what if you, instead of Firebase, you want to create your own server? How do you do that? So those things you can maybe see. Okay, a lot of people are asking how to best way to pursue ML. I think I would really say probably next time Pratik Bhaiya has a webinar. I think best to tune into that. He has much more experience in that domain than me. He's the one who runs the entire machine learning side of things at Coding Blocks. I still would say one thing though, try to learn a little bit of maybe web development before you go into ML, to everybody, that is. Machine learning is a very good and very important and very upcoming field, right? But still the, machine learning is also a lot of hype. Okay. So when you get into machine learning, the expectation versus reality meme, that kind of thing happens a lot of people. I know a lot of people. Okay. I know a lot of people, my students at Coding Blocks, my peers who used to do ML all the time during the college days. What they were really doing was, just, import NLTK on Python and creating a language parser, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, industry grade machine learning, the kind of things that are getting used, I think, say, I can talk to you a little bit about my own work at, I think, Zomato. I am not part of the machine learning team myself, but I know the kind of thing that we are doing. For example, if somebody, we can see if a person's order history for the last 10 days, if they have ordered XYZ items, then that person is more likely to order, say, a pizza today, or more likely to order biryani today, like that. So how do we create models like that? What is the probability of a person to order today? Like depending on patterns in their behavior, if somebody orders on weekends more frequently, we can send them advertisement on weekends to, or for discounts or something like that. So those are the kind of things that people are using. Those are not as sexy and exciting as creating AlphaGo and beating somebody, but that's exactly the point. I mean, Google talking about AlphaGo and Google Assistant making calls on your behalf, like Sundar Pichai is showing. That's a different kind of cutting edge level stuff, and a very different level of people are working on that. And the kind of thing that are actually used widespread in the industry in machine learning is still very different. So, like I said, it's a good field. Also, it's a hard field. To get into machine learning, you would need like a very good understanding of mathematics, probability, statistics. You can't skip the algebra and just think of importing libraries and working on ML. So align your expectations with the reality in ML, all the people who are interested to get into it, and then think further along those lines. Okay, I think that would be it. If we don't have a lot of other questions, I would try to slowly wrap up. Let me just cover a few more questions that we have. So I think I've answered most of the questions that we have had here. So yeah, I think okay, internships. Somebody asking about internships. Internships, good question. So about internships, okay. I think there are a few websites which are good to check out for internships for development related projects. I will be speaking more about those things. So if you want to land an internship on campus at companies like Adobe, Amazon, Microsoft, etc., focus on DS and Algo. That's the only thing they will ask. Brush up DS and Algo. Entire June, July, sit for those internships in August. But those companies don't go to a lot of colleges. Even if they go for placements, not for internships. That's the reality. Even if they go for internships, they don't take as many people as they take for placements. So even in a college like mine at DTU, where almost 100% of the people are placed, internships only probably 10% of the people get on campus. So on campus internships, if you want to do, then that's the way, but it's not necessary. I mean, a lot of people try for off-campus internships in development profile. For that, you can go to there is a website called Hirist. There is a website called HasJob. A few friends of mine, they have been working on something code judge, I think codejudge.io. Yeah, devfolio. Okay, we have internships at Coding Blocks as well. It's online.codingblocks.com/jobs. There are internships. You can click on internships and filter only the internships one. So there are certain internship offers as well. So you can take a look at Hirist. You can search for internships. You can search for internships on HasJob. These are good places. There is Devfolio. So Devfolio has, I think you can create a profile or developer profile there, and you can look at that. So yeah, these are the few places you can look for internships. Again, a good GitHub profile, 3-4 good projects with good readmes, screenshots, hosted on a website, launched on the Play Store. That kind of projects are needed to be able to land you good quality internships. Okay. Any other question? We'll just end in 5 minutes. Okay. Any other topics you think we should have webinars on? Feel free to write to me on arnav@codingblogs.com. That's my email ID. arnav@codingblogs. Feel free to write to me for any help you need, any guidance you need, or also, like I said, you think that we should have a webinar on a particular topic, please write. And we are going to make webinars more frequent going forward for all the people who are enrolled in our offline and online courses. And I think I would be conducting a webinar almost every week going forward. So just definitely send me what kind of things. Like we can have things like on, GSoC also, but we can also have webinars where we can focus on a particular topic, show a project being created. Okay. So let me know. Thank you all of you for, participating. Yes, Chetan, I will review the Android assignments. I will take a look at them this week, the ones who are submitted. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining. Happy New Year. May all of you, be able to fulfill all the resolutions you have taken this year. And good night to all of you. Okay.